Good morning. It's Rosemerry Watola, and I'm grateful to be joining you today on the Stay in Place Virtual Writers Conference. Thanks so much, Kaylin Booth, for putting this all together. And today's theme is the gateway to the unknown. And I chose this theme because obviously we're very well steeped right now in the unknown as a globe. As a globe, we're all together really understanding the potential of uncertainty and even the gravity of uncertainty, and hopefully the invitations of uncertainty. And there's really no better place to learn this than with a blank page in front of us and a pen in our hands. So today we're going to be having what I call a thought shop. Why is it called a thought shop? Well, it's not exactly a writing workshop because we won't be doing much writing. A little bit. I think we'll be able to do some little interactive things together, and hopefully I can see some comments. Well, if somebody's watching, will you please go ahead and send a comment to me and let me know that I can actually see comments? I was hoping we could do a little bit of writing together, and I guess that depends on me being able to see your comments. So a thought shop, yes, because instead of doing writing together individually, maybe we'll be able to do some writing together, but I'll be definitely giving you lots of poems, lots of ideas, lots of different encouragements so that you can play around yourself with uncertainty on a page. So you may have heard this valuable writing advice before: write what you know. And like all valuable writing advice, I think the most important thing to do with a rule that you've been given is to break it and see what happens. And I think this is one of the most important ones to break. Why would I say that? When you write what you know, it's basically like having a little cage around your writing. The instant you only write what you know, you are trapped in a way. And when we write into what we don't know, that is when everything is available to us. That's when we are, I like to say, we are serving the poem. I see that Paula Lepp has joined, and Uli has joined, and Emily has joined. Hello, friends. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being part of today's workshop, play shop, thought shop, a thought shop. So I'm just talking a little bit about how important it is to let ourselves not know when we come to a page. I think that we don't, unlike maybe going to the store, if you're going to the store, I think it's important to know where you're going. However, if we're going somewhere on a page, I think it's most important, at least in the beginning, to not know where we're going, because in this way we can be certain that we are serving the poem instead of the other way around. It's a kind of trust. It's a kind of willingness to come to a blank and say, what do I have to learn? What do I have to unlearn? Vava Szymborska was the Nobel Poet Laureate, quite a while ago now, but this is a quote from her about the not knowingness that I'm talking about. She says that a swarm of new questions emerge from every problem we solve, and whatever inspiration is, it's born from a continuous I don't know. How do we bring that I don't know to the page? How do we bring it to our curiosity? And that's, I guess, what this is really about, is about curiosity, about showing up to a page with curiosity. So today I have a few poems just to start off that are kind of encouragement poems. And then I have a bunch of ideas that I'll be sharing with the poems. I'll read the poem and give you some ideas about why it fits in with this I don't know theme. And then we'll also, I'll give you some prompts so that you can do some more writing when you are on your own. So the beginning is with Rumi. This is one of my favorite Sufi mystic poets, and this comes from a translation by Andrew Harvey. He says, desperation, Let me always know how to welcome you and put in your hands the torch to burn down the house. Very short poem, a little bit terrifying. Desperation, let me always know how to welcome you and put in your hands the torch to burn down the house. I'm going to just let that hang out just like that. And here's some more encouragement. This is from Alfred Huffstickler, The Edge of Doubt. There is always that edge of doubt. Trust it. That's where the new things come from. If you can't live with it, get out, because when it's gone, you're on automatic, repeating something you've learned. Let your prayer be, save me from that tempting certainty that leads me back from the edge, that dark edge where the first light breaks. Well, that will be our prayer, just for the next 40 minutes, if not for the rest of your writing life. But for the next 40 or 35 minutes at this point, let our prayer be, save us from the tempting certainty that leads us back from the edge, that dark edge where the first light breaks. So one way that we can engage, I've already mentioned, and overall I do think, please don't know the end when you start. Now, if you do know the end when you start, which is almost inevitable, then what I'm going to ask you to do is to write right past the ending. And this is always true. Just go ahead and write down what you think you have to say, but then write right past it. And idea number 2 is to go ahead and write that ending, and then once you've written that ending, you can just chop it off and write another possible ending. If we have some time at the end of this, I think we'll play a little game with that, just to show how that works. But what's valuable then, what we understand is that there's so many ways for us to do this right, and that we can really trust the poem to know where it's going versus us having to know it. There's so much freedom involved in this. I think another thing is that we feel like when we're writing poems, we need to know something. We need to be giving across some wisdom. Well, unless you're a Sufi mystic poet, maybe not. Maybe the most honest thing that you can do is to engage in questions in a poem. Maybe the most honest thing you could do is wallow in perhaps and lean into maybe. That's one of my favorite poems to read because it so clearly reflects what's actually happening in the world. So I'm going to give a whole bunch of examples of poems that I think engage with uncertainty, that help lead us through the gateway of the unknown. And this first one is by Denise Lavertus. It's called A Gift. Oh, and I can go ahead and put this in the comments so that you can read along. And here it comes. All right, this is A Gift by Denise Lavertus. Just when you seem to yourself nothing but a flimsy web of questions of other, you are given, let me start over. Just when you seem to yourself nothing but a flimsy web of questions, you are given the questions of others to hold. In the emptiness of your hands, songbird eggs that can still hatch if you keep them warm. Butterflies opening and closing themselves in your cupped palms, trusting you not to injure their scintillant fur, their dust. You are given the questions of others, as if they were answers to all you ask. Yes, perhaps this gift is your answer. What if you wrote a whole poem of questions that other people ask? Not your own questions, but listen for the questions of others. You can listen for these on the news, you can listen to your children, you can listen to your partner, you can listen to your friends. And consider creating a poem or creating a writing that leaps out of these questions. And what would happen then? What would happen then? Why not find out? Here's an example of a poet who actually does this, who takes a list of questions and turns it into a poem. This is by William Stafford. Again, I'll go ahead and just paste this right in to our comments section. All right. This one by William Stafford, who was, oh gosh, one of America's favorite poets, for certain. The hero of many of my heroes, and one of my heroes as well, who wrote a poem every day. And this particular one, I love the way that he just asks question after question after question. You reading this, be ready. Starting here, what do you want to remember? How sunlight creeps along the shining floor. What scent of old wood hovers? What softened sound from outside fills the air? Will you ever bring a better gift for the world than the breathing respect that you carry wherever you go right now? Are you waiting for time to show you some better thoughts? When you turn around, starting here, lift this new glimpse that you found. Carry into evening all that you want from this day. This interval you spent reading or hearing this, keep it for life. What can anyone give you greater than now? Starting here, right in this room, when you turn around. Well, what I love about this poem is it's just a list. It's just a list of questions. And it's a list of questions that are all about how do we stay present right now? How do we meet this moment? What a really important thing for us to be thinking about right now when everything seems so topsy-turvy. And if we could write a poem that's a list of questions that helps us be increasingly present, that's really all William Stafford did. Starting here, what do you want to remember? Question. How sunlight creeps across the shining floor. That's just a whole poem made out of questions. Something for you to try. In fact, we could try it right now. Do you guys want to try it? Why doesn't everybody write a question into the comments section, and we'll see if we can't just create a little question poem. It could be, I don't think there's no rule besides that. The only rule is you have to write it as a question. Let's see. I think there's a little bit of a lag time, but do go ahead and write any kind of question into the comments section. Well, I'm not sure if you're shy or if it's just a big lag time, but we'll come back to the question poem if I start seeing questions pouring in. Here's another way to write a poem and lean deeper into uncertainty, is to write about something that we really don't like. If you can think about something that you intensely hate, well, it doesn't even have to be that. It could just be something that you really don't like. And then see if you can't turn it around and find something admirable about it. Here's one that does that. This is Love for Other Things by Tom Hennon. It's easy to love a deer. Oh, let me paste this into your, so you can read it along with me. Here it is. Oh, look at all those questions that showed up. Okay, we'll play with that. We'll play with that as soon as we read this poem. Love for other things. It's easy to love a deer, but try to care about bugs and scrawny trees. Love the puddle of lukewarm water from last week's rain. Leave the mountains alone for now, also the clear lakes surrounded by pines. People are lined up to admire them. Get close to the things that slide away in the dark. Be grateful even for boredom that sometimes seems to involve the whole world. Think of the frost that will crack our bones eventually. Love for other things. So what I love that Tom Hennon's done is he's called into question, what are we able to love? And he just made a list. You can do the same thing yourself. You can make a list of things that you do love, but then challenge yourself to see if it's not possible to love things that seem impossible. You don't actually have to love them, by the way. All you're doing is bringing it into question. Is it possible? Is it possible to love these things? All right, now that I see that there are actually a bunch of questions, let's go ahead and play that little question game and write a little group poem based on just these questions that we've been given here. And I'm going to do that right now. We're just going to make up a question poem, and we'll call it "You Reading This, Be Ready." We're just going to steal William Stafford's title, and we'll start just like this. Will the crabapple blossoms be a lighter shade of pink than yesterday? How will I know you? Am I doing enough? Why has COVID-19 taken away so much from me? How can I serve this beautiful day? What does the scent of rain feel like? How can I serve this beautiful day? Hey, that was a pretty good little poem, just a sweet little question poem. You'll notice that I ended it just by repeating one of them, one of the questions. That was a lovely question from Uli Sergesi. How can I serve on this beautiful day? What a fun game. Now you see how very easy it is to write a list poem. And it's especially fun to do as a group. All right. Here's another way to play with uncertainty, is to put yourself into a situation that you would never normally be in, and then write about what that's like. Now, again, like I said earlier, write what you know. That's usually the directive, right? Write what you know. And in this case, we are certainly writing what we don't know. You force yourself into an unknowing by putting yourself in a strange place. That's what Dan Albergati did in this next poem, Things to Do in the Belly of a Whale. And I'll go ahead and paste that in. By the way, wouldn't it be nice if you just read along with me while I'm, here we go. Things to do in the belly of a whale. Measure the walls, count the ribs, notch the long days, look up for blue sky through the spout, make small fires with the broken hulls of fishing boats, practice smoke signals, call old friends. Listen for the echoes of distant voices. Organize your calendar, dream of the beach, look each way for the dim glow of light. Work on your reports. Review each of your life's 10 million choices. Endure moments of self-loathing. Find the evidence of those before you. Destroy it. Try to be very quiet and listen for the sound of gears and moving water. Listen for the sound of your heart. Be thankful that you are here, swallowed with all hope, where you can rest and wait. Be nostalgic. Think of all those things you did and could have done. Remember treading water in the center of the still night sea, your toes pointing again and again, down, down, into the black depths. That was Things to Do in the Belly of the Whale by Dan Albergati. This poem, I love this poem and have for decades, I think, but it's never seemed more relevant than it is now, when we find ourselves essentially in a place foreign to us, like the belly of the whale, and the things that he suggests that we do feel. Did you guys get to see that? There it is. It's pasted there for you now. Yeah, what you may have noticed is that that poem, although it was set in the belly of a whale, felt exceptionally relevant to where we are right now. So if you write a poem in which you put yourself in a trapped place, you put yourself in a strange place, and write about what you would do in that, my guess is that you're going to find that it has a lot to teach you about the place you're actually in. For instance, here where he says, endure moments of self-loathing. I mean, perhaps you, like I, have been in this whole pandemic situation, finding reasons to question the choices that you've made over your life and think, is this it? Am I doing it right? Have I done it all wrong? Or this, be thankful that you are here, swallowed with all hope, where you can rest and wait. Doesn't that sound like where we're at right now? So the next idea I have is to write about who you are not. Now, this is a really fun thing to do. I love to write poems in which, well, actually, I have an alter ego who I often take on, and she's everything I'm not. But just to take any character, you could be watching someone on TV. It's harder to watch somebody in real life right now, but you could be in a coffee shop and imagine somebody in the coffee shop and imagine you're them, or in a restaurant, or just walking down the street, and write the poem about what if you were that other person. You could write about all the things you're not doing. And this is another way to bring ourselves into not knowing, because if there's anything we know, it's what we're doing. So how do we nudge ourselves into not knowing what we're doing? By being someone else and doing something other than what we do. So let me find this poem for you. Oops. This poem is by a very good friend of mine. This is by Alison Luterman, and it's called On Not Flying to Hawaii, which is certainly something that none of us are doing right now. Unfortunately. On Not Flying to Hawaii by Alison Luterman. I could be the waitress in the airport restaurant, full of tired cigarette smoke and unseeing tourists. I could turn into the never-noticed landscape, hanging identically in all the booths, or the customer behind the Chronicle who has been giving advice about stock portfolios for 40 years. I could be his mortal weariness, his discarded sports section, his smoldering ashtray. I could be the 70-year-old woman who has never seen Hawaii, touching her red lipstick and sprayed hair. I could enter the linen dress that poofs around her body like a bridesmaid, or become her gay son sitting opposite her, stirring another sugar into his coffee for lack of something true to say. I could be the reincarnated soul of the composer of the muzak that plays relentlessly overhead, or the factory worker who wove this fake oriental carpet, or the hushed shoes of the busboy. But I don't want to be the life of anything in this pit stop. I want to go to Hawaii, the wet, hot, impossible place in my heart that knows just what it desires. I want money. I want candy. I want sweet ukulele music and birds who drop from the sky. I want to be the volcano who lavishes her boiling rock soup love on everyone. And I want to be the lover of volcanoes who loves best what burns her as it flows. I'm Not Flying to Hawaii by Alison Luterman. I mean, isn't that a fun poem? All the things that she's not. I really love this idea of just, you could look around the room right now and you could, like Alison did, just take the things that you see. I want to be the person who wrote all these books that are behind me that I haven't written. And I want to be the person who made this beautiful table that's underneath my computer, you know, and all the things that you want to explore, just go into them. And I love the way that she doesn't just go into other humans, she goes into the objects themselves. I could enter the linen dress that poofs around her body like a bridesmaid. She could be the discarded sports section or the smoldering ashtray. So go ahead and just go into, what would it be like to go into these other objects, go into these other lives and play with that. That's a wonderful way to enter into uncertainty. Another idea about going into what you don't know, this is I was alluding to earlier, something that I love doing. I love playing with an alter ego. And this is a fun way to express anything that you wouldn't do. So the way that I first got into it, number one, is that my friend Jane Hilberry had written a poem about an alter ego, Crazy Jane. And my friend Art Goodtimes and I had seen her perform one of these Crazy Jane poems, and they were a lot of fun. And then one day, Art Goodtimes, who is a friend and mentor of mine, and I were standing in line at the coffee shop in Telluride, and Art says to me, "What was up with that poem that you wrote last night?" I was like, you know, now here's what had really happened. I had written a really nasty poem about what I was going to do to this person. And this person, whoever they were, had been sending porn to my mother's inbox. And I'm sure they spammed it all over the place, but they sent it to my mom. And I was just angry. Who would do that? So in my frustration and anger, I'd written this poem, this very angry poem about all the things that I was going to do to this person who thought it was appropriate to spam people like my mother with porn. And Art said to me, "Rosemerry, you know, that poem, that wasn't like you. You need an alter ego." And I thought, yeah, that's right. I need to have an alter ego, somebody who could do something to that man. That's kind of out of my norm. That was such freedom that day, and I want to give you that same freedom to write a poem with an alter ego. And here's all you have to do. You create a name for your alter ego. Mine is Wild Rose. And you create some kind of a persona. It doesn't have to be the same gender as you. It doesn't even have to be human. My friend Kira created an alter ego that's a goat. But you come up with a name, you come up with something of a personality. The most important thing, though, about your alter ego is that whatever scares you, your alter ego loves. And whatever you're too shy to do, too prissy to do, too quiet to do, too, I don't know, embarrassed to do, your alter ego is going to totally have this in hand. So then you come up with something that you are supposed to do, something that you don't actually want to do in real life. And then in the poem, you let your alter ego tackle this. So for instance, Wild Rose she loves going coffin shopping. She loves buying used cars. She loves buying bathing suits. Yuck. She dances with God on tables. And in this poem, this is a real situation where I had an injury, and I was at the physical therapist's office, and the physical therapist suggested that it would probably help if I wiggled my hips when I walk some more. And I was like, no. And then and she said, "Yeah, well, all you have to do is pretend that you have a tail." And I said, "No." And so she said, "Well, good luck, Rosemerry." So I had a hard time trying to take this on. But Wild Rose, my alter ego, she took this as a real good invitation. This is Wild Rose chooses a tail. She is tired of all this tight-ass, skinny-hip nonsense, walking down the street like a pole, like a rail, like a wall. Wild Rose moves in curves. She is more swank, more sway every day, and she wants a tail, and not some fluffy little scut, and not some prehensile appendage always grabbing at things. She wants a long and slinky swirl of a tail that will swing when she steps, and you can bet she will swing for the pure fun of swinging. She's gonna flick it and swish it with the wiggle in her gait, 'cause she's got fanny and flair and a swagger in her ramble, and now she has got a tail, and you know that she was looking for some other way to tease anyone who thinks that a woman is supposed to play it straight. And that new tail, it rocks it on her coccyx, and the way that she is feeling, that road that she is walking can go on forever. All right, now you see how much fun it is to have an alter ego. Such a sweet and easy way to play with the unknown, to let yourself embody the exact opposite of yourself and see what happens then. Here's the sweet surprise, of course, is that some part of you is that alter ego, and it I think is actually quite therapeutic. Here's another poem that I love, and the suggestion that goes along with this one is to change your metaphor. Now, without knowing it, so many of us have metaphors that we live inside, and I have a whole TED talk about this that you could find on my website, which is wordwoman.com. And I think about this all the time. I think about what metaphors do I not notice are framing me? What metaphors do I think I know? What things do I think I know? What identities do I think I know about myself? And then writing helps me continually identify them and break through them into new metaphors. Now, the point isn't ever to get a new metaphor and stay there, right? The point is to get a new metaphor, see what it has to offer us, and break it again. And I'm going to give you just a little example of this. Because most of the times these metaphors are completely unseen, unknown. We don't understand that we're doing it. When my son was born, he cried for a year, and it was very hard. And we went and, of course, we tried to get him help. No one could tell us what was wrong, and nobody could ease his pain, and it was awful. And I was on the phone then one time with my friend Susan, and I said to Susan, I think I'm being tested. And she said, oh, Rosemerry, it's not a test, it's a path. And in that moment, I was struck by the fact that I had created this metaphor for myself. I was saying these words over and over again, I'm being tested. And if it were a test, I was failing for sure. But when Susan said to me, it's not a test, it's a path, well, this changed everything about the way I thought about motherhood. What Susan knew about me, by the way, is that I love hiking. And if there is a path, I'm going to take the longest, hardest, steepest path, always, for pleasure. And that is what I had been given in a child, the longest, hardest, steepest path. Now, of course, he still cried, and of course it was still hard, but I didn't feel like I was failing anymore. I felt as if I was rising to meet this challenge. You see how subtle that was, and I didn't hear it. I didn't hear that metaphor myself. It took a friend pointing it out to me. But this is one thing that writing can do for us, is it shows us the metaphors of what we think we know about the world and about ourselves. And it allows us to see through those metaphors and to try something new. So for instance, this is one of my favorite poems of all time. This is from Rainer Maria Rilke, I live my life in growing orbits. And let me go ahead and put this into our comments section so you can read along. Now, Rilke was a German mystic poet, and one of my very favorites. Did you get that? Did that just show up for you? Let's try it again. Oh, no. Huh. Let me try again. Command, see. I'm sorry. Sorry for cutting and pasting issues. Huh. All right, this is going to be the wrong thing, and here it comes now. There it is. There's the Rilke poem, and this is, and I see it has some strange, I don't know why Facebook put in all these question marks, except isn't that perfect? Because we're talking about uncertainty. Wow, thanks, Facebook. All right, so this is from Rilke. I live my life in growing orbits that move out over the things of the world. Perhaps I can never achieve the last, but this will be my attempt. I am circling around God, around the ancient tower, and I have been circling for 1,000 years. And I still don't know if I am a falcon or a storm or a great song. Oh, I love this poem so much. It's one that I memorized long ago. It's been such a good friend to me. I take it with me everywhere I go, and I'm surprised at how often these words come back to me. I still don't know if I am a falcon or a storm or a great song. Now, you remember earlier I was saying that in a poem, sometimes we think that we need to come up with a lot of wisdom. Now, Rilke is probably one of the wisest poets I know. And here what he offers us is a bouquet of uncertainties. I still don't know. I still don't know is actually a wonderful prompt for writing a poem. I still don't know. And then see what shows up. It could be just a whole list poem of the things that we still don't know. What do you not know if you are? And you can go outside and just look around and see what things would you like to try on? What identities, what curiosities, what beings could you try on and see if they have something to teach you or something to unteach you? We have just a few minutes left, and I would like to try and play this game in which we see what it's like to have many different endings. I challenged you earlier to see if you could not know the end when you wrote a poem. And right now, let's just try it real quick. We're going to steal somebody's first line. How about that one from Rilke that we just chose? I live my life in growing orbits. And now I want you to go ahead and write a 2-line poem, just 2 lines long. The second line, I gave you the first line, and all you have to do is create the second line. So go ahead and write it down right now. Just type it right into the bar. I live my life in growing orbits. And now I want you to write the end of the poem, the second and last line of the poem. And then press hit. And then I want you to do it again and again and again. So you write as many as possible in 2 minutes, 2-line poems. So I live my life in growing orbits. You doing it with me? Oh, good. Here we go. So many. Beautiful. I live my life in growing orbits, an essence of heartfelt music and surround sound. Beautiful, Kate. I live my life in growing orbits, each one in color I thought was final. Anna, beautiful. I live my life in growing orbits, a bouquet of uncertainties. It was from Uli Sergesi. I live my life in growing orbits, reverberating truths. Thank you, Phyllis. Elizabeth, I live my life in growing orbits, each one circling more unknown. Well, friends, thank you so much for playing. Thanks for spending 40 minutes with me. I'd like to thank Kay for the chance to play with the Stay in Place Virtual Writing Conference. Thanks every one of you for showing up. I hope you will dance a little bit more in the unknown as you explore what it is to come to a page and trust in the not knowingness and trust the poem to know more than we do. Thank you.